And this board game is a bit of a love simulator. It does have a few different modes of play, but in each of these modes, the players are going to be competing for a particular love interest, and each love interest is going to have a set of traits that represents their interests, as well as a quirk which is going to cause some special effects or changes to the game depending on which love interest is being used in that particular game. And this love interest is also going to have a schedule which is going to be dictating where they go or stay on a given round, and it also determines how much interest can be gained from them on a given round. Each player is going to be playing as their own character in this game with their own player board, which they're going to be using to keep track of their various traits and their progress building up those traits. All the traits are helpful, but of course you want to try and build up the ones that your love interest is most interested in, setting you up for the most success. The game uses a main board that has a bunch of larger locations on it, but then a bunch of smaller locations along the paths that players can stop on in order to get the associated benefit. The game plays over a series of days, and there's going to be 5 rounds per day, and then each player is going to have 1 turn per round. Players also maintain a hand of 2 action cards that you'll be able to spend on your turn, and you always draw back up to your hand limit of 2 at the end of your turn, so you are incentivized to use them. But all the players start in the middle of the board, and then on your turn you'll be able to roll a die and then move your pawn that number of movement points. If you happen to stop along one of the smaller spaces along these paths, that's going to be granting you the associated benefit there, which normally will help you upgrade your traits. But each of these spaces can only be used once in the entire game, and as soon as a player gains that benefit, you're going to be putting a token on that spot, blocking it out for the rest of the game. The exception here is that anytime a player moves through a location that has a building, you can choose to stop on that space even if you do have more movement points. These work very similar to the smaller spaces, but the difference here is that you can use them continually throughout the entirety of the game. One of the nice things about leveling up your traits is that if you level up one of your traits high enough, you're going to be unlocking a special ability specific to that trait, basically giving you some extra power for the rest of the game. Some of the other spaces here can allow you to pick up action or bonus cards, and there are also spaces that can trigger different events either for yourself or for all the players at the table, and there'll be multiple skill tests with different traits required to complete those skill tests and different rewards depending on how well you do. In order to actually win points with your love interest, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either fully level up any of the traits that the love interest is interested in, and that's going to be getting you some points, or instead, once per round, you can visit the location where your love interest is located, and then you can perform a skill test by rolling your dice as well as combining it with your stats in order to try and get some additional points. This is something that you pretty much want to do every single round, but it's always better if you're able to level up some of those traits before you do it. But the game continues like this until the end of the final round, and then players are going to be adding up their victory points, and the player with the most wins the game.